I talked to the radiologist about this. She explained this to me. I said, she doesn't have any sign of anything. She doesn't have anything. What do you think about that? She said, it's a miracle.
All right, so it sounds like you've been living with this, obviously, your whole life. I've never seen Gardner syndrome. I think it's pretty rare that a lot of doctors haven't seen them.
Watching Dr. Pimple Popper is like stepping into a mix of horror and pure relief. You're grossed out, but can't stop staring. This compilation shows the most shocking moments, from enormous cysts exploding like water balloons to stubborn growths that seem alive. One cyst was so massive it sprayed across the room like a popped soda bottle, leaving everyone stunned. Can you imagine a lipoma so big it looks like someone's carrying a second head? Let us dive into this cringe-worthy world to uncover the cases that will make you question the limits of the human body. The hidden monster emerges. The moment Dr. Pimple Popper takes out her gloves, you know things are about to get serious. Take, for instance, that sac that's been growing for what looks like 50 years, layered under the skin like a relic buried from a different era. It's bulging under there, and it's not pretty. The patients had this lump for so long it almost became a part of their personality, and now it's about to meet its match. When she says she's going to widen it a bit more, you know that means something seriously massive is coming out. The thing is practically begging to be freed, and as it oozes out, think cauliflower that's been mushed up with too much water, you can't help but grimace. And yet, why does it feel satisfying? Before we reveal what happens next, it's clear this extraction is far more intense than anyone could have predicted, and it won't be the only thing to leave you speechless. There was one time she worked on something that honestly looked like a blooming onion from Outback Steakhouse. You know, that deep-fried goodness that you can peel layer by layer? Only this wasn't something you wanted near your mouth. It was a mess of tissue and pus intertwined in a way that looked almost artistic, but also made you wonder how someone went this long without getting it dealt with. And of course, Dr. Lee is right there, calm as can be, pulling away as if she's unraveling an old sweater, making sure she gets every last thread of that sack out. You can't help but cheer for her, like she's winning some bizarre but epic battle against nature gone wrong. Let's not forget the vanilla pudding one. Only let's be real, no one is craving dessert after seeing it. The texture's all wrong and it's kind of deflated, oozing out like it's got nowhere to go but out. You can see Dr. Lee's face. She's doing her best to keep everything clean, but sometimes the mess just has a mind of its own. The worst part? It's not just about getting the goo out, it's about tracking down the sac, that thing that's holding it all together so it doesn't decide to come back for round two. If she doesn't get every last bit of that sac out, the patient might end up right back where they started. And you know nobody wants to go through this twice. Another memorable pop was the case of an old cyst. I mean really old, like half a century old. Imagine that, living with a sack of stuff under your skin for 50 years. This was not a cute little bump either. It was like a balloon that never burst, just kept growing and stretching under the skin. When Dr. Lee finally cut into it, what came out was a mixture that could best be described as mashed potatoes gone horribly wrong. But it wasn't just about the goo, it was about all those years of pressure finally being released, like the world's most disgusting relief valve being turned. And as gross as it was, it's weirdly satisfying to see it all come out. Almost like, all right, 50 years of nonsense, gone. And it's not just about the visuals, it's also the whole atmosphere. There's the patient laying there dealing with years of stares and awkward questions. You can tell they're nervous, but also relieved that someone is finally doing something about this growth that's been plaguing them. Dr. Lee, with her calm demeanor, asks about their life, like the one patient who worked with people with disabilities. Here's someone dedicating their life to helping others while carrying this bizarre little burden of their own. And as it's coming out, you can almost feel the weight lifting off of them, like they're being freed from something more than just skin deep. It's as much about the emotional weight as it is about the physical. Just when you think it can't get worse, the next case shows something even harder for Dr. Lee to handle, leaving everyone surprised. Breaking free from a heavy past. Then there's the sack wall, the unsung villain of this whole ordeal. If you don't get that out, you're in for a repeat performance, and that's where Dr. Lee's skills come into play. She's got to carefully work it out like untangling a knot from a fishing line, pulling, tugging, making sure not to leave even a tiny piece behind. You can see her concentration, her surgical precision as she maneuvers around, making sure this sac's not going to make a comeback. And then there's that moment when she finally gets it. It's like a prize at the end of a long, messy game, and you can feel the relief all around. One of the craziest parts is how people react to their own extractions. Some are fascinated, others are completely grossed out. The guy who wanted to see what came out of his cyst, he thought it'd be like a cool science experiment, but then Dr. Lee starts comparing it to mashed cauliflower, and you could tell he wasn't so sure anymore. Honestly, it's one thing to watch these things on YouTube, but to actually see your own body produce that's a whole different level of weird, and yet there's something about watching all of that gunk leave your body that makes you feel lighter, almost renewed. It's like shedding years of something you never even realized you were carrying. Now let's talk about those poor folks who have to answer the same question every day. You know the one, what's that on your face? For some people, these cysts have become part of their identity. They've dealt with strangers staring, friends asking, even little kids pointing and shouting. It's one thing to carry the weight of a cyst physically, but the emotional weight's a whole other ballgame. So when Dr. Lee finally pops that sucker, it's not just about the physical release. It's about the end of those questions, the end of those stares, and the start of feeling like yourself again. It's freedom, plain and simple. There was one patient who had such a cyst for so long it had started to calcify. This wasn't just a soft, goo-filled lump anymore, it was getting hard. When Dr. Lee opened it, out came a texture that honestly defied description. Somewhere between cottage cheese and gravel, but wet and clumpy. It was gnarly, and yet as it all came out, you couldn't help but feel happy for the guy. That thing was out. No more hard lump growing under his skin, no more random pain when he bumped it, no more stares. You could see the relief on his face, even if he was a bit grossed out by the cottage cheese of it all. And honestly, Dr. Pimple Popper is more than just popping. It's a psychology session. It's physical therapy, and yes, it's a little bit of gross fascination. The patients come in nervous, they've got this thing growing on them that's made them self-conscious, and now they're here, lying on a table while Dr. Lee preps the numbing agent. They know that soon, that lump, that cyst, that awful mass of goo and tissue is about to be gone forever. And you can see the gratitude in their eyes. It's not just about the pimple, it's about what it symbolizes. Years of shame, discomfort, and feeling different. Dr. Lee's not just a dermatologist, she's someone who's giving people their confidence back. Dr. Lee's commentary is something else. She'll be comparing a cyst to mashed potatoes one moment, then suddenly drop a little nugget of wisdom about skincare or the importance of sunscreen. She's casual about it, but you can tell she knows her stuff. She's been doing this for years, and while she keeps it light for the cameras, you can see the concentration in her eyes when she's working. No matter how gross it gets, she's in it to win it, and she's not going to let a single piece of that cyst remain. It's that dedication that makes the whole thing so compelling. You're not just watching someone pop pimples. You're watching a professional work magic, one squeeze at a time. After finishing one tough case, the next patient brings an even deeper challenge that needs all of Dr. Lee's skill and care. The deepest cyst revealed. One of the most intense extractions was when she had to tackle a cyst that had grown so deep it was practically wrapped around the guy's muscle tissue. This wasn't your typical pop. It was a full-on excavation. She had to widen the incision, carefully cut around the mass, and slowly, bit by bit, pull it out. The stuff inside was a nightmare. Thick, dark, almost like chocolate pudding that had gone bad. You could see the tension in the room. Even Dr. Lee had to take a second to reposition herself and make sure she got everything. But when she finally pulled that last bit out, the relief was palpable. The patient could finally relax, knowing that massive thing was no longer attached to his body. And let's not forget how messy it gets. Sometimes Dr. Lee's gloves are covered, the tools need replacing, and it's all part of the job. But she's got a system. A way of keeping everything clean despite the chaos. It's part of what makes her so good, no matter how gross it gets. She's right there, focused, making sure the patient's taken care of. Even when it's a 50-year-old cyst that's decided to spring a leak and leave her hands covered, she's calm, collected, and on it. And honestly, that's why we keep watching. It's gross, it's messy, but it's also weirdly comforting. Because we know Dr. Lee's going to make it right, no matter how much of a mess she has to wade through. The whole point of these compilations is more than just entertainment. It's about understanding that everyone has something they're dealing with, something they're embarrassed about, something they want gone. For these patients, it's a cyst or a lump or a weird growth that's made their life just a little bit harder. And with each pop, each extraction, they're not just losing a lump, they're getting back a piece of themselves they thought was gone. Dr. Pimple Popper's not just about the pop, it's about the person. And that's why we keep watching. Because there's something deeply human about wanting to fix what's broken, about finding satisfaction in seeing something gross get cleaned up. And then there are those patients who have multiple cysts, like a collection of little unwanted souvenirs from their body. One by one, Dr. Lee goes through them, and each pop is like a small victory. Some are quick and easy, like little water balloons that burst with a simple squeeze. Others are stubborn, requiring careful cutting and a lot of patience. It's a process, and you can see the patients getting more relaxed with each one, knowing they're finally getting rid of these burdens. There's something almost poetic about it. Each cyst removed is like a piece of freedom gained. One patient had a cyst that had grown right on the middle of his forehead, and it looked like a third eye. He joked about it, but you could tell it really bothered him. Dr. Lee went in, careful not to leave a scar in such a visible place. When she finally got to the core of it, it popped out like a little marble, and the relief on his face was clear. It was gone. No more awkward jokes, no more feeling self-conscious every time he looked in the mirror. Just his face, the way it was supposed to be. And speaking of scars, Dr. Lee always takes the time to minimize them. She knows that it's not just about removing the cyst, it's about what comes after. She stitches carefully, making sure the skin will heal as smoothly as possible. For her patients, it's not just about getting rid of the lump, it's about feeling normal again, about looking in the mirror and not seeing a reminder of something they hated. Dr. Lee's work is as much about the aftercare as it is about the extraction, and that's what makes her stand out. Another unforgettable extraction was when she had to deal with a massive lipoma on a man's back. It was so large it looked like he had an extra shoulder. He had been living with it for over 20 years, and it had grown steadily over time. The man talked about how it affected his confidence, how he avoided taking his shirt off in public, and even how he hesitated to go to the doctor out of embarrassment. But here he was, finally ready to get rid of it. Dr. Lee made an incision, and what came out looked like a large lump of raw chicken breast. It was heavy, solid, and you could see the instant relief on his face as she lifted it away. 20 years of carrying that weight, gone in a single session. Every pop has a story, but this next part shows how people carry not just lumps, but years of feelings they can finally let go of. A new face after the lump. There was also the case of a young woman with a cyst that had grown behind her ear. It was small at first, but it kept growing until it was the size of a golf ball. She wore her hair down to cover it, but it was uncomfortable and made her self-conscious. When Dr. Lee numbed the area and made the incision, it popped out in one smooth piece. It was almost satisfying how clean it was, like it was just waiting to be freed. The young woman looked at it afterward and couldn't believe it had come out of her body. It was like a weight had been lifted, both physically and emotionally. Dr. Lee also had a patient with a cyst on his cheek that he had named. He called it his pet because it had been with him for so long. He joked about it, but you could tell he was ready to say goodbye. When Dr. Lee removed it, it came out in one big squeeze, and he laughed, almost in disbelief that it was finally gone. He said he felt like he'd lost a part of himself, but in a good way. It was time to move on, and you could see the happiness in his eyes. One of the more challenging cases was a woman who had a cyst on her scalp. It had grown so large that it was affecting her hair growth. She was worried about losing her hair, but Dr. Lee assured her that she would do her best to keep the hair follicles intact. The cyst was stubborn, and it took a lot of careful cutting and squeezing to get it all out. But when it was finally gone, the woman was overjoyed. She could finally brush her hair without feeling that lump, and she was excited to see her hair grow back normally. It was more than just a cyst. It was her confidence, her self-image, and Dr. Lee gave it back to her. There was also the case of a man with multiple cysts on his back. He had dealt with them for years, and they made him feel uncomfortable, especially during the summer when he wanted to go swimming. Dr. Lee tackled them one by one, and each time she squeezed one out, you could see the man relax a little more. By the end, his back was clear and he looked like a new person. He talked about how excited he was to finally be able to take his shirt off at the beach without feeling self-conscious. It was a series of small victories that added up to a huge change in his life. One of the more emotional cases was a young man with a cyst on his neck. He had been bullied for it in school, and it had taken a toll on his self-esteem. When Dr. Lee removed it, it was like watching him shed all those years of hurt. He looked at the cyst afterward and laughed, almost as if he couldn't believe it was finally gone. He talked about how he felt like a new person, like he could finally move on from all the teasing and bullying. It was a powerful moment, and it showed just how much these procedures mean to the people who go through them. And then there was the woman with a cyst on her chest. It had grown slowly over the years, and she was embarrassed about it, especially when wearing certain clothes. Dr. Lee made an incision, and the cyst came out in one smooth piece. The woman was almost in tears afterward, talking about how she finally felt free. It wasn't just about the physical lump, it was about the confidence she had lost along the way. Dr. Lee gave that back to her, and you could see the gratitude in her eyes. Dr. Pimple Popper is more than just a show about popping pimples and removing cysts. It's about people reclaiming their lives, about shedding the things that have weighed them down for so long. Each extraction is a story of freedom, of confidence regained, and of moving forward. Dr. Lee isn't just removing lumps, she's giving people a chance to feel like themselves again, to look in the mirror and not see something they hate. It's messy, it's gross, but it's also incredibly human. And that's why we keep watching, because we all have something we want to get rid of. Something that's holding us back. And with each pop, we're reminded that it's possible to be free of it, one squeeze at a time. Are Dr. Pimple Popper's compilations just harmless entertainment? Or is our fascination with these shocking cases something deeper about human curiosity? Share your thoughts and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.